Welcome, friends, to the You Are More podcast. I can't believe this time has come. I've been wanting to do this for quite some time, and I look forward to going on this journey. I wrote a book 4 years ago called Single Truth You Are More Than Your Relationship Status. It's about what I have learned about love as a single marriage counselor. 4 years later, I am relaunching that book and am celebrating by launching this podcast as well. This past February, I was inspired by my book to begin a business called You Are More. This business includes counseling, coaching, writing, speaking, all around the mission, the message of you are more than your relationship status. You are more than your job, your career, your family role, everything. You're more than a mom, you're more than a dad. You're more than your diagnosis. You are more than any box that is keeping you stuck from living the life that God intends for you. I want to help you to live a life that is free, faithful, and fruitful, no matter what season you are in. So, in the next episodes, you will hear interviews with a variety of different people who are talking about how they discovered that they are more than their own labels and the labels of those that they serve. So let's all learn together how to live outside of the box and inside the bounds of God's perfect plan. We are tempted to live inside the box, and sometimes that can be comfortable, it can be familiar, but God invites us to a life that is more abundant and more free. I had an interesting experience this past week as I was preparing to launch this podcast. I was returning an item that I had bought on Amazon, and I had thrown away the original packaging. So I was on a mission to find a box to put this item in order to return it. Little did I know that a box this size cost about $20 to $30. So I was going from store to store to store to try to find the box they had in the back or some sort of leftover box somewhere that I could just put this item in and get my money back. But this was a much harder challenge than I thought it would be. And it hit me on my errand that I was encountering people that weren't usually recognized. Maybe people in the back whose name people didn't know, or workers that were very familiar with the inventory, but not in the front engaging with customers. I was able to invite them into that adventure with me. I was able to invite them to help me and to have a little spark in their day. It was a relatively simple ask to just say, hey, do you have a free box that fits this particular item? And it was fun to have little conversations. It was fun to see others smile. It was also very exhausting going from store to store and hearing a no, that they did not have a box that fit my requirements. As I was heading to about the fourth store, I laughed to myself as I felt God pointing out the fact that I was going through so much work to find a box. And here I was planning this podcast about how to live outside of the box. So here I had this item that was outside of a box, and I was going through so much to get it in a box. How often do we do that in our lives today? We work so hard to have some sort of title, some sort of descriptor, some sort of box that we can feel at home in, instead of living free, instead of living an abundant life outside of the box, trusting that God's plan is better than our own. It was such an interesting way to walk through the message of this podcast in real time. The effort that I put into just finding a box that would fit this particular item reminded me of all the times in my life that I have gotten past one box just to put myself in another one. In one season of life, I found myself as a big sister of quadruplets. That was how I defined myself. That's how I introduced myself, because I didn't know how else to see who the real Annie was. I found my worth in being a big sister of quads. After that, I saw my worth in a relationship. And when that relationship crashed and burned, I didn't know who I was anymore. I had put so much of myself in that potential future. And that's when I wrote the book. After I wrote the book, I got a few diagnoses that I started really attaching to. And now, after a lot of work, after a lot of reflection, and a ton of humbling experiences that remind me that I don't have to be in a box. I can just be Annie. And that has been some of the best marriage prep I have ever gone through. That I can be Annie and still be connected with others. I can be Annie and still be in a relationship. I can be Annie and still have a particular job or career. Or I can also have different diagnoses. I can have different roles in my family or community. But ultimately, I'm Annie. And I want to encourage you and cheer you on as you learn to be you, to know that you are more than any of the boxes that you feel stuck in, and that God is more than anything that we struggle with in our world today and in our lives. God is more than that. God is more than the box. We feel like the box is big. We feel like it is overwhelming. But God is never intimidated by the box. God wants to free us, and God wants to show us where He wants us to dwell in His perfect plan. So sit back and relax and enjoy these blessed conversations with a variety of different people who are learning this lesson alongside you. So thanks for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on the journey. Remember, you are more.